This thing is my Go card. I very rarely use it, to be honest. I have a nice car, but I keep it in my backpack for when I go out urbexing. And for those of you who don't know, urbexing is short for urban exploring. So I run around at night in abandoned or empty urban spaces to explore them, but largely to soak up the atmosphere. Now, don't worry about me, I do it safely. I've been in storm drains, of course, but only during dry weather. There are some wonderfully evocative urbex sites in Brisbane, old fire towers with rickety stairs and sublime views, abandoned factories still full of barrels of rusted bolts. I even once got inside a derelict orphanage out past Goodna, though the security guard was on me before I had a chance to explore very far. I don't take my car urbexing because I don't want it spotted by security. I have a vanity license plate, it's quite memorable. But also, if you're doing drains and so on, you actually often end up somewhere quite different from where you started. So I always take my Go card and I hit public transport. And there's something really nice about getting on the well-lit city train after trudging through silt in the dark for an hour or so. Now, I usually urbex with a friend, a large male friend, but one night I was surfing the internet about 9 o'clock. At night, and I came across information about an abandoned rail station out near Pinkenba. It's called Meander Station, and in World War II the troops were often camped there because there was a good deep berthing in the river nearby. And so I thought, it might offer a slice of interesting history and atmosphere, and it was only a 10-minute walk from Eagle Junction Station, which is on the line near where I live. So I locked up the house, took my Go card and headed off. The night was cool after a warm day, that lovely Brisbane smell in the air, and the sodium lights lit my way. Gradually the streets grew darker and more deserted as I got sort of further away from civilization. That's one of the thrills of urbexing. And I had to take a turn off down near an industrial estate, past these old train signals with sagging cables, to find the old platform of Meander Station. And once I was there, I sat and I listened. I listened to the distant traffic, to the breeze in the trees, the faint sound of a security siren going off a few blocks away. But then I felt something, and I can't explain it any more to you than to say I felt as though somebody was approaching, but there were no footsteps, and when I looked around, it was still only me on the platform. So my skin started to prickle, and I had a very strong sense that I should just get out, I should leave. So it was just instinct kicking in. I stood up and I walked quickly back to the main road, but I still felt that something, almost like if you can imagine a warm, dark spot in your sensory field just over my shoulder. But I told myself, you're being hysterical. It's just because Ray's not here. And I kept walking. But I kept walking quickly because I was pretty freaked out. At Eagle Junction Station, I was the only passenger. It was quite late at night by this time, and it was a Tuesday or some quiet night of the week. And a suburban multiple unit pulled up almost straight away, and I hopped on. I was the only passenger in the carriage. And I sat in a section, one of those sections of 4 seats, and immediately I felt this horrible cold sensation all through me, just like dread just running through me. And I stood up, almost believing that I must have sat in something. But, it was just the usual Queensland Rail, maroon upholstery, slightly scratchy on your legs. It wasn't anything unusual. So I put it down to air conditioning and I moved to the other side of the carriage. And I pulled out my phone. Of course, that's what you do on a train, right? And started thumbing text out to my urbex friend Ray, telling him what a wuss I was being and how I'd got freaked out being on my own, when something caught my eye. And I don't even know why I looked up, and I wish I never did, but it was nighttime and the carriage was well lit, so I could see my reflection really clearly, and behind me, in the seat that I had just vacated, was another person. Now, I know I should have looked around to check, but I couldn't. I was so frightened because I knew there was nobody else on that carriage but me. I leapt to my feet and I ran to the next carriage, and we slid into the next station a few moments later, and I got off and I just called a taxi to get me home. And as the train sort of rattled off into the distance, I could see there was nobody in that carriage. Luckily though, I didn't feel as though whatever it was, it wasn't still with me. And I have never been urbexing alone since, and that is the story of this thing.